Hey there. I'm just making a video to discuss conversion between a Maxscript and a Python script that would be compatible with Noesis. Noesis is the model viewing program written by Rich Whitehouse, and I think is popular because of how easy it is to write plugins for it, because you just write it in plain text in Python, which is included with Noesis. So, I'm surprised that, more people aren't using it. I kind of expected people to stop using Maxscript. I personally loved Maxscript, but with the advent of Blender, which is basically built from Python, it just seems like an impending doom that 3ds Max become irrelevant. So anyway, I was asked specifically to port a script from zaramot. So I looked at this one here, Shadow of War. I'm not logged in right now, but he uploads a script, and down below somebody shares a sample file of a spider or something like that. So I attempted to do a, I call it, I think it's called transcoding. I tried to change the Maxscript so that it was equivalent in Python so that it would work with Noesis. And I started recording it, and it started taking days, man. And I realized that it was it's part of it is a learning curve. Part of it is just the amount of stuff that has to be dealt with, and it's very clear that it's just not a simple single-click solution. There's just nothing out there. There's no converter for it. And there's nothing I can teach you within a small span of time to say, oh, hey, this is how you can do this to make your Mac scripts work instantly. That's unfortunately just not the case. It requires an extensive knowledge of programming, so it's something that you have to build as a set of skills to be able to do. So you need to keep your mind open to that. Um, you might need to sacrifice a lot of time to learn this. So I'm going to talk about your resources first and foremost. Biggest resource I can tell you about is Xentax. There's another one called Xentax, so let's call this one Xentax. Yeah, Xentax? Is it Xentax or Xenhacks? Zenhacks. Yeah, Zenhacks and Xentax. That's confusing. But this one we'll talk about primarily. There is another form by that Luigi guy. That's the guy that knows about all the encrypting and encryption and stuff like that, compression. He's really smart too. This forum is ran by Mr. Mouse. He's always been involved in file research stuff. So the forum is on file research. I get mad when people talk about, oh, this is a forum for getting pirated assets. That's not what it is. It's for educational reasons. I learned a bulk of what I know from here, and not for selfish reasons. It's for self-developmental reasons to learn about programming and about formats and stuff like that. So it's upsetting when people exploit this resource and they think of it as, oh, how do I get assets? How do I pirate stuff? Basically, you can see here the main post, Assassin's Creed. What does NFS stand for? Need for Speed, Most Wanted. Persona 4, Data Live. These are all games, real video games. So of course these are all talking about file research, so it's not surprising to see video games in here. But unfortunately, the associated stigma is that these people are just here to gain access to assets that they don't own. And I find that a little bit annoying when that's the emphasis of what people want out of Xentax or Xentax. It really is just for educational reasons. So use it as such. It is a resource for that. So if you're interested in looking at a 3D file, then come in here and post about it. Okay. It doesn't have to be about I need this model. I need this model from this game right now. It can be I'm looking at this format. I'm finding this, and people can relate with you. Another thing is the tutorial section. I think it's kind of been neglected, but there are tons of tutorials in here. One I can probably recommend here is Mr. Mouse. He's very thorough, and he goes over a couple formats that he actually goes through and researches himself. I haven't really watched one of his videos through because most of the time I'm kind of tired with the whole file research thing, so I really don't get into it that much anymore. And if you're looking into Noesis scripting, then at the very least, look at chrrox's Noesis tutorial for basic models. He has a very lengthy write-up about that I think is worthy to have a look through. He's been always a helpful person to me, so if you reach out to him, I'm sure you'll get a response from him. If not, there's many other people on here that are, interested in these types of topics, so I would imagine there would be no problem reaching out to somebody to get help for those particular issues. Now, as well, it is a Rich Whitehouse wrote Noesis. It's kind of rare to see these individuals kind of still stay in touch with their community, but Rich still does participate on the forum, and if you can't reach anybody, which is the case sometimes, forums are kind of the way of the past. You can connect with them through the Discord. They're on there, such as Rich and chrrox, and I'm on there. You can join the Discord and converse with the community that way. I think that's a more modern way these days. Of course, I don't recommend it, but I do have videos that I did put out a while ago, about 2 years ago. I video recorded my journey making a Maxscript, importing geometry from a binary file, apparently from Monopoly. Then I do some other things in Python for Noesis, importing meshes and even making an extractor. Okay, so those are other resources that you can go to. All right. Now, one other thing I'm gonna say is I know this is like a mentality of getting things rewarded to people right away. I kind of alluded to that earlier. People kind of more or less expect somebody to give them a model or give them an asset that they want right now, and when you say no, it's usually they get upset about it or something. And there's no shortage of morons on there. They'll group together, band together the other morons, and have a witch hunt against you for denying them the assets they think that they should have for free from somebody. This is really narcissistic attitude to have. What I'm saying is, if you're going to throw down the effort to learn things, you really have to give it 100%. You have to give it your all. If it's just something where you need a quick fix, honestly, like, oh, hey, I want that model like right now, then you're really looking in the wrong direction. If it's something so simple as that, then just contact one of the people on here and be like, yeah, I'll give you like $100 to do this, because it can just be as simple as that, and everything's done and over with. But you really are wasting my time or other people's time when somebody approaches you and says, oh, please teach me the ways of doing this, and then the next comment you get is, I just wanted the model, I don't care anymore, I just want the model. That's really upsetting for somebody that's trying to carry on knowledge to somebody else, and then one time they care about it because they want something immediately, and then after they get it, they don't care anymore. So please, if you are interested in this, take it seriously. If you're serious about learning how to do this, be serious about it, because, oh, wow, Siri just turned on because I said serious. Crazy. What is going on in this world? Okay. I think I ranted a bit too much on that. I apologize. Another thing I want to bring up is the Maxscript Help Me. And there doesn't seem to be I don't know much about Python to begin with, but I don't really have a go-to for you. I did just a general search just to find out about a loop, and it brought up this thing first. So this is probably a good place to start. It's the w3school.com. I don't have any experience with it personally, but it seems to have examples and explanations of a for loop. That's probably as good as it's going to get. There's other resources on here, obviously, but I was having a hard time finding stuff on the official Python website, which I found curious. I just typed in for loop and nothing came up, so that's annoying. But anyway, use these as well because you're going to need them. I can't really go through this step by step. There is almost 1,000 lines of Maxscript code, so doing so would take a very long time to explain line by line. But I'm going to explain what you need to do. And this is something you're going to do in your personal time. You're going to have to review this, and you're going to get stuck. No doubt about that. I'm going to have these scripts available on the YouTube video. I'll link them below or something. So you have access to them to make your life a little bit easier, so you can kind of see what I did in those instances. But for the most part, if you're going to be doing your own project, you want to look for a very small, simple script to recode into Python. And then you want to go line by line in the Maxscript, and you need to understand every single line. And I've done this before. I've come to a line and I'm like, WTF, I do not know what this line does. Oh well, next line. And then when I go to run the code, oh, it doesn't work. Why? This is missing, that's missing, this missing, that missing. It ends up that all this stuff is missing because I just didn't have a complete knowledge of enough things, and I skipped too many things. So it's important that you understand what's happening in Maxscript so you could decide, okay, is this important? And then how do I get to that same place in the other language? Okay, so we'll just go through a couple lines to kind of reinforce that idealism. So this one here we have a if statement. Okay, so an if statement is basically we're saying that using the keyword if, and then we have a conditional. So we have a conditional operator. So less than. So is this number less than this number? Heap is a red color. So that means that it's a native function built into Maxscript. Heap size, you could just bring that up in the document over here, which I think I already brought up already, but we'll put this in here. And you'll see heap size at the bottom. Yeah, it explains what it does, but the explanation probably won't make any sense to you. And that's really where talking to someone one-on-one or talking on the Discord, for example, will help you. But basically, we're talking about the memory size, and if the memory size is too small, in this case, smaller than 200,000, which is 200 megabytes, then we're going to do the line after that, which is this line, which is that we take the heap size and we make it larger. So this is 2 million, which is I think 2 gigabytes. And then there's an old comment left here, which is it's not correct. It's not up to date. It's saying 40 megabytes if you only have 7 megabytes. Well, should be 2 gigabytes if you only have 200 megabytes. So this is distorted. Someone forgot to update that. But anyway, this is a comment operator. So that means if it sees 2 dashes, it will just ignore that. So you can put whatever you want there after the comment. And so the comment should be used, usefully, purposely. So like if you want to leave an explanation. So you can see here in the Python here, we have things that we need to skip. So we use that comment character to even skip out something we don't want to activate. But I also use it to kind of leave a general header here. So explaining what the script does, where to get information on it, the date the script was released, and who was authored to it, and stuff like that. And I will probably still add more to this in the add that zaramot wrote the script and all that stuff. But yeah, you want to use the commenting characters for those sort of reasons. And in the example, you'll see where those comments are even used to describe each individual function or even some operations. That's a good practice to have. What else is there? Okay, so heap size, we're done with that. So now, is there equivalent to the Python? I don't know if there is or not. Python will manage its own memory, so you shouldn't have to worry about that. So that line is irrelevant. That can be ignored, and we don't have to carry it over. This one here is gname. So what this line is doing is it's popping up the file selector browser inside of Windows so that you can open a file. And then once it does that, it then uses the fopen keyword to take that name, and it will read the bits into the variable G. So it's creating a bit stream into G, and then we can access the bits in G, which is kind of fun. Then it repeats, but it does it for a different file. So this one is looking for the skeleton file, and this one is looking for the mesh file. Okay. We also have these little slashes. This line is too long, okay, to fit on the screen. So what we can do is we can add like a to be continued line or character, which will basically cut the line into pieces and stitch it back together. Python has this. I forget what it is. I remember Visual Basics is like the dash. I kind of think it's a dat underscore in this one too, but I can't remember honestly. It's something you can research on. But anyway, these lines here, we don't need them because the way the example shows how we handle files. Okay, so what happens is our file is already put into a bit stream, but it's just a basic bit stream. And it's just more or less just an array of bytes. And so we use a special class called the Noesis Bitstream, and we assign that class to a variable called BS, and that will give us all the same functionality that we would have if we had assigned the bitstream to like F. Okay, so in some cases you can see in here we're doing like a read a long integer from G or F or whatever. It'd just be written differently. It would just be BS dot, because we're accessing the member function called read integer, and that will pull a long integer value from BS, which is our bit stream. So the way they are set up are a little bit different, and so having that in mind, you'll realize that more or less this isn't really applicable. So what is this really doing? Once you understand the whole script, you'll understand what this is really doing. So what it's doing is it's opening up a skeleton file, and it's opening up a mesh file so that it can combine both the skeleton and the mesh. Okay. So what we need to understand is how can we open up two files in the Python script. So what I did is I actually looked at the Dead or Alive 5 script because I know that that one does open up two separate files because I was more or less engaged when the hacking was going on for that. When I say engaged, I mean interested in it. So anyway, what we have going on here is showing how we can open up another file. And so that would be something equivalent. Now, Rappy is another module which is described in the README. Okay, so in the Noesis folder, you're going to find there is a README. All right, and you're going to find in the plugins folder under Python, there are two text files at the top. Example, which is just an example how to write a py script to import models and stuff. Excuse me. And then you have this README, which talks more or less about Rappy and some of its core functionalities and other things. So, back over here. Let's put this over here. All right. Oh yeah, this thing here. I was gonna say, once we get down here, we're using a keyword called file name from path. So I believe that just gets the root file name, and then this one, get file name from file. I don't know. Anyway, you can see these you have access to these. You can get the file name, you get the file path, and get whatever you need to get. And it explains it here in the comments section how to do that. Anyway, what else we got going on here? This function here, read half float and read string. These are part of the inside the folder. There's another script here called inc_noesis include noesis py. I have this open up here. What this is it's like a toolbox. You need to use it because this is the classes you need to interface models with Noesis. But I call it toolbox because it gives you a lot of stuff, utilities that you can use to help you do everything you need to do with a binary file. So under the Noesis Bitstream, which we do use to read in our Bitstream, is we have the read half float and read string functions already there. So in Maxscript, there's no need to carry those over because they're already built in. Now these get brought into our script through this line. It says from inc_noesis import all. That will then basically copy and paste everything from that script into the top of this script. So you have access to all that information, or those classes that are in that script. Alright, and then we have functions. I kind of skipped over, but a function is just, basically something where you can put some kind of operation inside of it, and you can call it at any time in like a convenient way. So in the PY, you can see we have a check type, and that's called into here, and that will do a bunch of stuff. And that's basically what it does. It just kind of encapsulates, a bunch of code that you want to access to perform an operation. And converting those is going to be, well, that'll be fun, won't it? But the basic function structure is you have the name, you have parameters, and then you have it do stuff, and then it needs to return something. So over here in the PY, you can see we have function starts with the keyword def for definition. Gives us a name, our parameter data is already given to us, and in here we're doing a conditional with that parameter, and we're able to return stuff at any point within the function. So it's the same thing. You can do it's for both of them. I think the last thing is your return value. So you can see here it says str at the end. It's the same thing as just saying return. Oh, I can't see the keyboard. Return string. It's the same thing. Return is an interesting keyword because, for example, up here when we return 0, what that is saying is like we're done, and it just executes from there, and it's done. So return can also be used to kind of act as a stop. So once we hit a return, it will just stop reading. It will return immediately, and that function ends. So if you have lots of code, you can put a return in it. So for example, this bigger function, which is the model loading function, we have this little return at the top, return 0. So if something is to fail, like a check, we can end the script right there and have it stop, rather than reading through the whole thing. Okay. What else can I talk about here? Yeah, you're just gonna have to read line by line through the Maxscript, understand exactly what's going on with it. You have to understand, this is a variable, we have an assignment operator, we have a keyword, We have another variable we're feeding into it. Where did this variable come from? This variable came from up here. Why did we get that from there? Why are we putting that there? And so forth. So unfortunately, that's nothing that anybody can just tell you, because every script or Max script is going to be written differently, because everybody's different in how they write their code. So me going over my own code is not going to be any beneficial to you. I'm just trying to give a little bit of a demonstration of how maybe you would want to follow along with it. But for the most part, it's going to be a self-adventure. Try to do this conversion yourself. Use my script to kind of fall back onto, kind of see how I did things. And first and foremost, you use all your resources. So the forums, the Discord, the documents for Maxscript and Python, and for Noesis. Use all those resources. And practice, 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 practice if you want to retain the knowledge for long term. Okay, I think that's all I can say for tonight. I guess it's kind of late now, it's morning. I do wish you luck. Please leave feedback if you have any issues, and of course you can contact me on the Discord. That's probably the better place to do it. The forums, I think my inbox is full, so try to contact me on Discord if you can. And I do wish you luck and everything. Okay, have a good one.